troops. And it makes you wonder, right? Maybe we should disband some units here. We're looking for a Khuzait battle. They have tons of horse archers. So I think what we'll do here is we'll disband a unit or two. It's a little bit artificial, but especially as a guide, this gal I guess can go. Let's keep our companions with us. We have 6 cavalry. This is a really good setup here. So let's encourage battle by just ditching an army here. And immediately they turned. That was interesting. The AI immediately did a little calculation there and said, hey, if you're willing to fight with that 71, you got a deal. So welcome back again, friends, to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. Our YouTube channel is dedicated to all things Bannerlord related. And we have a battle here today. We are going to walk you through a ground level view battle against the Khuzait. We will have an RTS mod, highly edited overhead view of a battle of the Nords against the Khuzait. As you can see, our army here is probably 85% Khuzait. We have some other units. So that's because this is from part of our campaign, our foot troop only campaign. We have no cavalry. It says we have 1 horseman, but we don't have any cavalry. And the cavalry we do have, we won't use. It says we have 6. And that is because our companions, of course, are sneaking in troops. And we're going to get what is essentially a mid to late game Khuzait battle here against the Norse. Now, it's a close fight via the power bar. But I think with tactics, using some squares and then the destructive shock troops, we should be able to win here pretty handily. Now, it's a bad landscape for us. We're downhill. There's not really any cover to use from the horse archers. So what are we going to do here, right? We're going to make lots of squares. Now, this is not necessarily a new tactic, but I get a lot of people that ask me, how do you deal with the Khuzait, especially in the open field? And so we're going to demonstrate it here from scratch. I've got this cavalry in the 3rd division, third division. We'll just simply get them out of the battle. They can be the 8th division. Now, we are going to run 7 divisions. And before you get too intimidated, let me just say that a lot of these divisions are going to be static. They're going to be bad. You have to think of them as like battleships during World War II. It's the Battle of Midway here. And we're going to have a lot of static battleships on the battlefield here. We need to absorb enemy heavy cavalry charges, horse archers circling and shooting. And we have 3 different archer divisions, the 4th, 5th, and 7th. The 7th is a reserve. We will keep them at the back. That is because they are our weakest archers. By clicking the low tier preference, we get those really low level, weaker archers. We'll protect them, right? Because they'll get shot to pieces by Consguards. Now, I'm not going to talk about captains a lot in this episode. I want to try to keep this battle under 20 minutes. We'll talk about a few here. Glairon Heavy Hand is going to lead the 6th division. However you do your campaign, I recommend your best captain, which is usually your main character, be in charge of a large division of infantry. That way all of those perks spread across all of those troops. Now that 159 unit division, that might even be a little bit big. All of those troops benefit from his monstrous perk list. Now the 2nd division is going to be our weakest infantry, and they will form the weak side square. Basically, horse archers are typically going to surround you from your left to your right, so they will be on our right. Now this looks good. I see a few shields mixed in here, but these are our shock troops, and we have probably 50 Skjalbristier, right? These are the units that we covered in the troop guide, and we now know that these are basically some of the absolute best infantry in Bannerlord. What we're going to do is leave them at the back to start, and as the enemy is slowed by our different squares and archers, we will bring them up to commit murder on the enemy. 1, 2, 3. So 6th division in a big long line, big long shield wall like that's our best troops. There's going to be a bunch of Huskarls and Berserkers in there. Again, the shock troops here in the 3rd division way towards the rear, frankly, with the archers. We've got our wife here wearing the same bear head. She can go right next to her husband, but look at that perk list right now. Some people would say this should be a captain of an infantry division, but her perks are a mix. She has like archer perks mixed in there, so we'll put her in the 6th. We'll have that guy cover the 2nd. Now, why so many squares? There's a bunch of reasons, but the big one is that it jams up the enemy and breaks up their formation. As their horse archers come in, if you have a bunch of battlefield, I guess we're calling them battleships all over the battlefield, they basically, like boats going down a river. If there's a bunch of rocks in the river, it breaks them up. Imagine a bunch of people in boats trying to go down a river. If there's a bunch of rocks in the river, they're going to have a bad day, right? They're going to hit rocks, get slowed, get jammed up on them, and capsize. We're trying to capsize the Khuzait battleship. Now we've got 3 archer divisions, really only 2 that matter though. That 7th division is in the rear. Hopefully they don't see heavy combat, otherwise they're gonna get killed. 2nd division towards our right, and again, they're there to protect that archer division and any infantry on that right side. Now it says we need horse archers. Damn, I'm gonna have to break up one of these divisions to make a horse archer division. Now, it's important to remember that this formation that we're setting up before battle, most of these pieces are not going to move until, I guess, the mid part of the battle. And once we get to that stage, I'll explain. But the basic concept is we're trying to absorb the initial Khuzait charge, the initial horse archers shooting us, and whatever their infantry does. I didn't notice how many infantry they had. And then we're going to counterpunch. And this is a tactic that we constantly use on the channel. When you are attacked, one of the best strategies in Bannerlord is to wait defensively, get a good position, hold off that initial enemy attack, and when they look vulnerable, counterattack. Now, what does that mean, look vulnerable, right? Well, for the Khuzait, that means their units are jammed up. If their horses are moving and or a long distance away from your troops, be in a defensive posture. And we're also going to hold fire here. We don't want to waste a bunch of ammo at the beginning, and I will tell you when we reopen fire. This is our 1st division, and it looks pretty good, right? There's a few weaker troops in there, but the 1st and 6th are key. These are basically our anchors of this battle. Now, they're a long ways away. This is the RTS mod. I'm not doing this to get some kind of information. I just wanted to see what the hell's taking so long. Trying to speed these episodes up. Guys are in a hurry these days. They're over-caffeinated, or they're exposed to too much social media, and so their attention spans are withering. We're going to try to move these guides along 15-20 minutes each. Seems to be the sweet spot that you guys prefer. You get one last overhead view of our units here before the enemy crashes into us. And it's really strange behavior. I can see why some people say the Khuzait are acting unusual in their campaign. Horse archers circle counterclockwise. Well, they are starting way, way far to our right, which means they basically have to cross in front of us to circle us. They really should be coming towards our left. And the infantry, we're seeing this a lot too. The infantry is coming in a big broken line. Well, how do you think that's going to work against skirmishers and archers, right? We're going to lay a lot of this initial wave on their back. So open up fire here with the 5th Corps. We're holding fire still with the 4th, right? That division, that's our best archers. We're going to wait a little bit, right, until the enemy's closer. They're on our left flank, so they're not even close to these troops yet. And we can just kill some troops here with our throwing axes. Now, here comes a cav charge, but it's pretty small. That looks like 30 cavalry in there. They're not going to do anything to this square. All right, so the 4th Corps can now be told to open fire, right? There's troops that are starting to bleed into our different formations here. Now, these squares are already doing their job, right? Because the enemy is basically getting bound up on them. And as they're funneled through the middle here, it's easy for the archers to shoot, right? These archers are just firing away. We do want to kite with the archers. I'm going to move this square back a little bit. And we're moving our archers back here just out of range of this infantry. I thought the infantry would attack our squares, but they're not. So we're just going to move our archers back. Notice we still have 3 squares here, right? Now, when are we going to attack with the 6th Division? As this cavalry. You see all these horse archers that are starting to get mingled in with the 6th Corps? Here's where you break these guys into line formation, F2, F1, and charge. Now, they're going to suffer serious losses, but the enemy's momentum is broken. Look at all those horses just standing still. The 1st Division and the 2nd Division, I'm leaving in squares, right? That's 2 whole divisions that are just standing there holding the line. Meanwhile, this 6th Division is going berserk. And these are our best troops, right? So these guys are going to go berserk, literally. Of course, our main character our goal is to become the most savage Nord warrior in the history of the Nords. And so far, he's on the right path. I mean, he is a fucking world-destroying being already. And he's in the low 30s for level. And he's already a hulking beast. All right, so let's see. These look like reinforcement horse archers. They're ready to melt under the withering fire of Glaron Heavy Hand. And again, if this is chaos to you, we will do an overhead view. I don't think we'll do it with this episode. What we'll do is produce a series of videos on tactics with horse archers and Nords. This is more of a ground level view, right? A lot of guys do want to play from the ground level. This is pretty close to what I would recommend you pursue. Now, our shock troops got up here late. but they are now charging, right? Now that the enemy lines are really maligned, they could charge, and you see them rushing around the battlefield, blasting things. Those are shock troops right there, just murdering stuff. They have some archers here, and then behind it, it looks like they have another line of archers, but this enemy got so blasted by that initial wave, their cons guards got sent packing. We could beat them to death, I think, with our fists at this stage. And I just looked up at the power bar, and this battle is already over. Now, this force was not that big. We will fight probably with an RTS mod, just so that it's even easier to see. A force of 12, 13, 1,500 Khuzait. We're going to be running guides for a while, right? Until you guys have had enough, basically. Until you guys quit asking for this guide or that guide. We'll have to do a guide against a lot of archers with the Nords. This was a lot of horse archers, and quite frankly, they melted. Right? The Nords are... let's cover some key points here. Our army is about 40% archers. I think that's right for horse archers. I think you could even push it to 50%. That is because archers, especially behind protected infantry lines, do a really good job of killing horse archers. What you want to make sure you avoid with archers are two things. Number one, they're not moving. Number two, make sure they don't get charged by heavy cavalry, right? So you want them protected by these squares. If you start facing a huge amount of cavalry, you may want to do a checkerboard or some other, maybe an inner circle of hell tactic. And if these are just meaningless to you, eventually we will cover these tactics on the channel. Our channel does tactics. That's virtually all we do. Well, I guess the occasional profanity-laced historical escapades. Of course, we've got campaigns running where we're focused on everything from character and companion builds to campaign strategy, but tactics is our forte on the channel, and if you want to get better at battlefield command, you're in the right place. Now, can you defeat the Khuzait with 95% infantry? You can. There are ways to do it. Lots of squares and lots of patience, because you effectively have to wait for the enemy to come to you. The big advantage of having a bunch of archers, and what I mean wait, is even more so than this battle. You basically have to sit there and hunker down. I don't think it's a very enjoyable way to play, unless you just love being surrounded by guys while you're getting shot with arrows for 15 minutes. I think a lot of guys are going to be disappointed by that play style. Can you win? Sure, absolutely. Set up a bunch of squares, a checkerboard defense, and/or with an small archer division towards the center. Yes, but I think this is an ideal army mix and tactical mix to destroy the Khuzait, and I think the results show that. 132 casualties and 717 kills. We had more upgrades than kills. It's always a good metric. 95 upgrades. All right, this campaign continues, and what I'm going to do, fellas that are watching the campaign, is I'll stitch this into an episode and try to put the disclaimer that this is redundant material. We're going to make this a standalone episode. I will release this ahead of time. It's a spoiler, a little bit of a spoiler, right? Although obviously you know the campaign continues. You could probably see the year. This is at least a half dozen episodes ahead of what is recently released on YouTube. So apologies. I'll try to mention it again in the video description, but there you have it. There's anti-Khuzait, anti-horse archer tactics with the Nords. Not only can you be successful, I think you should be successful. I think this is not the hardest matchup for the Nords. What is? Well, we'll cover that down the road, won't we? We want some other troops here. You know what? I better wrap this up. Thanks again for watching, friends. Please hit that like button on the way out. If you want to see more from our channel, more tactics, more profanity-laced history lessons, you're in the right place. I appreciate you, fellas. Please hit that like and hype button, and I will see you next time. All right, now we need to raid some villages here. Hargard is the next obvious target, but we're at war with Sturgeon now too, so there's targets all over the place. I think it makes sense for us to gather recruits for a while. There's no hurry. The Khuzait is reeling. On the other side, the king is sieging. I don't think we need to worry necessarily too much about hurrying through this. And we are down to 600 troops, right? We started with over 1,000. Now we're down to 600. We're not getting voted for any castles, but that's okay. We're just going to keep rolling right along. And let's pick up a whole bunch of Nordlings, right? There's all these little podlings at the villages here. Let's gather up more forces before we start with Hargard.